Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about, blockchain technology. Just going to be going over the basics of it, just trying to get a grasp of exactly what it is. The first work in a crypto-secured chain of blocks was in 1991 by Stuart Haber and W. Scott Stornetta. The first actual blockchain was created by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008. They don't actually know who Satoshi Nakamoto is. They're not sure if it is one person or if it was a group of people under the alias of Nakamoto. But he or them, they created the blockchain as a ledger for Bitcoin. Has anybody heard of Bitcoin? Had a big explosion last year. They created the blockchain to solve a double spending issue in the digital currency world. With digital tokens, they contain a digital file, so having the issue of people either hacking the files and copying them or falsifying tokens, which, as you can see, is a big issue when you're talking about currency. So does anybody actually know or have heard of blockchain technology? A couple of people. Okay. So blockchain is a continuously growing list of records called blocks, which are linked together using secure cryptography. It uses an openly distributed ledger that can record transactions between two parties efficiently and in a verifiable and permanent way. Each block in the chain contains a timestamp, the transaction data, and a cryptographic hash of the previous block. A hash is any function that can be used to map data of random size to data of fixed size. So basically, your first block is always linked to the block after it, and therefore, so you can always start with your end block and come back to your first block. So it's pretty much basically exactly like a chain. Not every link in the chain is connected to each other, but if you start at the beginning or the end link, you can always make your way back to the beginning. The structure of blockchain, like I said before, uses a distributed and public ledger. So it records transactions across many computers so that records cannot be altered retroactively without the alteration of all subsequent blocks in the agreement of the network. It's a decentralized network, so by storing data across a peer-to-peer network, the blockchain eliminates a number of risks that come along with consolidated data storage. So instead of holding all of your information and data in one central point, I mean, for hackers that makes it easy. All they have to do is break into that one point and have everyone's information. By using a distributed, it makes it, you would have to basically hack into the entire network to be able to get the data because it's verifying off each point that the data is correct. It's a peer-to-peer network, lacks centralized points of vulnerability that hackers can exploit, meaning that there's no central point of failure. I forgot to show my video at the beginning.
When you vote, have you ever wondered whether your ballot is actually counted? If you meet someone online, how do you know they're who they say they are? When you buy coffee that's labeled fair trade, what makes you so certain of its origin? To be sure, really sure, about any of those questions, you need a system where records could be stored, facts could be verified by anyone, and security is guaranteed. That way, no one could cheat the system by editing records, because everyone using the system would be watching. Systems like this are on the horizon, and the software that powers them is called a blockchain. Blockchains store information across a network of personal computers, making them not just decentralized, but distributed. This means no central company or person owns the system, yet everyone can use it and help run it. This is important because it means it's difficult for any one person to take down the network or corrupt it. The people who run the system use their computer to hold bundles of records submitted by others, known as blocks, in a chronological chain. The blockchain uses a form of math called cryptography to ensure that records can't be counterfeited or changed by anyone else. You've probably heard of the blockchain's first killer app, a form of digital cash called Bitcoin that you can send to anyone, even a complete stranger. Bitcoin is different from credit cards, PayPal, or other ways to send money because there isn't a bank or financial middleman involved. Instead, people from all over the world help move the digital money by validating others' Bitcoin transactions with their personal computers, earning a small fee in the process. Bitcoin uses the blockchain by tracking records of ownership over this digital cash, so only one person can be the owner at a time, and the cash can't be spent twice, like counterfeit money in the physical world can. But Bitcoin is just the beginning for blockchains. In the future, blockchains that manage and verify online data could enable us to launch companies that are entirely run by algorithms, making self-driving cars safer, help us protect our online identities, and even track the billions of devices on the Internet of Things. These innovations will change our lives forever, and it's all just beginning. To learn more about the urgent future of the blockchain, please visit iftf.org/blockchainfutureslab.
So has anybody heard of crypto mining? Do you guys know actually what they're doing? Anybody have an idea?
Performing operations that help run the blockchain.
Correct. So basically these crypto miners are, GPUs is basically what's used. So like when Jacob covered supercomputers, your GPU does all your simple transactions, which all of these are simple transactions. Even each crypto miner is a node. So even if you were to hack into one node and alter it in any way, the entire network itself is going to be able to see that because it's an open ledger. So each node has to verify that it's a good transaction and stamp it for it to be able to be changed. So that's just relating to how it's extremely hard to hack into this system. So user security, this is pretty much referencing to like cryptocurrency and stuff. You have the use of a public key and a private key. So your public key is an address on the blockchain. It consists of a long mixed string of numbers. That way your digital assets can be sent from peer to peer. So like, use PayPal as an example, your email address is your actual address. So if you wanted to send money back and forth. So this public key would be like your email address in a PayPal sense. But you also have a private key, which is a password that gives you access to your digital assets, which means to otherwise interact with various capabilities that blockchain supports. Data that's stored on these blockchains is generally considered incorruptible. When Bitcoin first came out, Mt. Gox was one of the first platforms to buy and sell Bitcoin. Has anybody heard of Mt. Gox? Yeah, they had a big hack back in 2011, and it wasn't the blockchain that was the issue. It was actually Mt. Gox storing people's private keys in data files, and once hackers found this out, they could just hack into Mt. Gox and they stole everyone's private keys. They ended up getting about 640,000 Bitcoins, which back then Bitcoin I think was under $100. It may have been around the $20 mark. But in today's terms, that's a couple of billions of dollars that were actually stolen. So private keys are no longer stored in the trade platform. The most secure ways, once you create your account, they'll give you your private key, and it's up to you. You can print it out, you can keep it on a USB flash drive, which is probably the safest way because it's offline, so there's no way anybody can hack into that while your USB isn't plugged in. Also, it's a little risky though if you happen to lose one of them. So when, like I said before, whenever they created the blockchain, they weren't, it was specifically made for Bitcoin. I'm not sure if they actually had any implications of it being used in the business world today, but like in the near future, it's going to change how people do business on the big scale. Most people are saying 5 to 10 years. Maybe 30 to 40% of companies will be using it by then, I would think. It could take a little bit longer for a wide scale, but all of these points up here, there's already companies. So like all of your altcoins, which are just any coins that aren't Bitcoin, a lot of those companies are actually right now creating things for these points right here. So for voting, everybody remembers when George Bush was elected president and they had the big mishap in Florida. If they were actually using blockchain technology, then everyone's votes are kept on the network. So there's no double voting. Your vote's automatically counted and verified as soon as you go into the system and place your ballot. I'm going to show a couple of videos right here. These are just two different companies that are actually implementing this. And the first video is for cloud storage.
Imagine if the cloud wasn't up here, but down here, with us. That's storage. Storage is a cloud shared by the community. It's potentially the largest, cheapest, and most secure cloud available. What you share is what you get. You could even be paid by renting your extra space. But how is it more secure? Each file is shredded, encrypted, and spread across the network until you're ready to use it again. And you can be sure the files are safe because the keys are in your pocket, not a company's. Only you have access to your stuff. Because the network is shared, you don't have to worry about slow download speeds coming from one place. We're all helping to make the system blazing fast. And if you have some extra space lying around, you'll get paid by users who need more than they can share. It's like renting out your empty hard drives. A cloud with security, no downtime, and speed at a fraction of the cost.
Just a pack of mangoes. I came into my staff meeting, I put them on the table, and I said, your traceback exercise starts right now. And we timed how long it took them to get the information for each point in the food system all the way back to the farm. And I'm not going to give you the results after the pilot, but it's going to be good. When a customer shops in our stores, we know they expect great prices, we know they expect fast, clean, and friendly service. But an unspoken expectation is that they expect the products that they buy in our stores to be safe. You know, when there's a food event or a food scare, what you want to do is you want to be fast, but you want to be right. That food product is guilty until proven innocent. We at Walmart will actually pull all the product until we know what is the implicated product. We can put the safe product back out. And so imagine if we could pinpoint with certainty within minutes, not days, that it was the implicated product. Walmart and IBM are working to make that a reality. If you think about the food system, it's pretty complex. It involves farmers, processors, distributors. And the way traceability is done today, each segment of the food system does it their own way. Most actually do it on paper or on systems that don't speak to each other. And so you can never have a full view of what's happening in the food system. What we hope to do with blockchain is bring all food safety system stakeholders and collaborate so that we do it one best way. We can do it very quickly and efficiently. Blockchain is a digital ledger that allows different segments of the food system to capture information about the product, what they've done to it, where that product has been. If we're linking that data with other data points, the Internet of Things, all that information will yield to insights that will allow us to have a safer, more affordable, and sustainable food system. But we don't believe traceability is the goal. We believe that transparency is the ultimate goal. Blockchain will give us the ability to not only track where food came from, but how it was produced. Was it produced safely? Was it produced responsibly? Is it sustainably grown? How many dates of shelf life are left on that product? The food system is a shared responsibility. And for blockchain and traceability and transparency to work, we need a lot of people working together. So we're excited to be working with IBM on this blockchain initiative. But it's not just Walmart and IBM. We actually have some of our suppliers participating in this pilot. We've got some universities also participating in the pilot. And so we'll make sure that all stakeholders work together for a safer and better food system.
able to transpire how big and important this technology is. It's still in the beginning phases right now, but like I said, in the next 10 to 15 years, you will be seeing a lot more of this technology in our business world. That concludes my presentation. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
Is anybody making any money mining Bitcoin these days?
Yes, so now that the prices have went up and stuff, is anybody invested in any cryptocurrencies? So you guys know that you're probably not doing too great right now. So whenever they're mining, for all the transactions that they're completing and stamping, you get a small percentage of Bitcoin. 5 years ago, people were making a lot of money off of it. Now that the prices have went up and stuff, you're still getting that small percentage that you were before, but it's not worth as much anymore. Now, like, has anybody looked at the prices of GPUs? Okay, crypto mining is the reason that now a $400 GPU is $1,000. Over in China and stuff, they're actually creating, like, they're taking rooms this size or larger and filling them with motherboards that are connected to 2 to 3 to 4 GPUs and doing large-scale mining rigs. Now, them, yes, they're probably making a good amount of money, but if you were to just set up your computer with 2 or 3 GPUs, it's probably not cost-effective just because of the amount of power you would be draining on a daily basis. Any other questions?
Why does the creator of Bitcoin not want to be on it?
I'm not sure. I actually saw where they found a guy that his legal name is Satoshi Nakamoto. They don't know if he has any connection to it. I mean, of course, he's been interviewed and stuff, but he denies it completely. So I'm not sure why he doesn't want to be known. I mean, it could possibly just be that he really wanted to publicly let this out and try and change the way that currency and stuff is done today from, you know, a centralized point where they have control over everything to where it's now shared between us, like we have control over it. Okay.
Just a comment on that, they found emails from him communicating with someone he was working with at the time, and he said, I want to be anonymous so that I can give this technology to the world. That's why I didn't patent it, or nobody wants it to go into the new market.
So do they actually know who he is then?
No, they don't know who he is.
It's just an email?
But they have emails from him.
Okay, so yeah. Anyone else? All right, thank you guys for your time, I appreciate it.